Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Selecting and Preparing IT Infrastructure. I suggest we just wait a little bit, just a couple of minutes to let everyone join, and then we start with the main program. While we wait, you can just write if you can hear me and you can see me properly, if everything is okay, so that we know. I would be happy to read what's your name, what is the name of your project, how long are you in IT and in IT infrastructure, what are your expectations for today's meeting. So let's just exchange our expectations while we wait for everyone to come. So for today, I think that our meeting will last for about 45, maybe 60 minutes. And I really hope that it will be not just a lecture where I will be speaking and you will be just listening. I hope that today we will have it as a meeting because I will try to cover the questions that you've sent in advance, and also you will have an opportunity to ask your questions during the event in a special chat. I will share some details later. So feel free to prepare your questions and things that you want to learn and take as a valuable insight from today. Yeah, let's wait for just another 1 minute. Thanks for those who are sharing in the chat. I hope everything is okay with the connection and with audio and video. For those of you who are just joining us, we will start just in 1 minute. Okay, so I guess we can start now. We will have a recording of this event, so in case you are missing the beginning, don't worry, people can join later and rewatch it in a recording. So good afternoon again. My name is Victoria. I'm a country manager at Servercore, and today we will talk about selecting and preparing the right and effective infrastructure for 2024. As I already mentioned, I hope that we will be able to communicate today during the event with our chat that we have prepared for you. You can prepare your questions, you can ask them during the webinar. Also, I will try to cover some things that you have sent for us in advance and share some examples as you asked. So let's look at the agenda. What will we talk about today? So first, we will see what makes up the cost of IT infrastructure, because it's important to understand what we're talking about in general before we understand how to make it more effective. How to choose an IT infrastructure provider. We will talk about reliability and some important criteria that are not always obvious. I will briefly tell you about Servercore and our products and how we work in Kenyan market. And then we will try to look at the nearest future and see what awaits us in 2024 in terms of IT infrastructure and IT products. In general, we will find out what can be done right now to effectively build your IT infrastructure and which products are the best suitable for that. But before we start, as we promised, we will share 5,000 shillings bonuses for services testing at Servercore so that you can immediately try some ideas, some product ideas that you might get during this webinar. So to explore things that we're talking about now, what you need to do to receive it. First, you need to register your account on myservercore.com and receive account ID. You can DM our engineer, Josephine. Let me also introduce her to you. Josephine is our sales engineer at Servercore. She works in Nairobi, and she will be happy to receive your messages. Just provide her a short overview of your projects, your future tasks, what you want to use this infrastructure for, and the account ID that you get on our panel. She will be able to account these bonuses to your profile, just to credit them. Please use either WhatsApp number that is on the slide now, or you can use this QR code for writing her directly in Telegram, whatever option is more suitable for you and more convenient. Also, you can get participation certificates if this is something also that you are interested in. Just scan the QR code for our chat and send us a plus or some message that you need the certificate, and then also Josephine will contact you to send you back your certificate. You can see the example on the slide as well. If this is something you need, don't hesitate to ask us. So I guess we can now start with the main program. And as I already said, first we will talk about what actually make up the cost of IT infrastructure. So I believe that if you don't have your own infrastructure yet, or you're just thinking about expanding it and have different ideas on which way to go, either to rent cloud service or either to buy your own hardware, I think this part will be the most interesting for you, particularly. Yeah. So for those who already own their server equipment, you probably know that server cost is not the only cost of hardware. It consists of many different things, and we will see what is included in it now. So first of all, this is the equipment itself, plus spare parts, different tools and accessories that you need. First thing you pay is, of course, for hardware. Plus, you need to budget future updates. For example, the frequency of these updates may vary depending on your needs and your demand and your project. For basic systems, you might only need to update it. For example, central processors, you might need to update it only 5-7 years, but for bigger, more demanding setups, you might need to update them every 3 years. And this is the budget that you need to plan, or even sooner. Software licenses, this is also an important part because you're not just renting these. If you own your own server, you need to buy them. So for example, if you use Microsoft or VMware licenses, in this case, these are extra cost for you. Then there is such thing as upgrade. We hope that your project will develop and you will need to scale, you will need to buy more advanced hardware, and for that you will need to buy additional equipment according to your growth. So this might be another thing that you need to plan in your budget. And the part about engineering cost seems obvious. Of course, if you have a server, someone needs to power it and cool it and keep everything running smoothly. But you need to count effectively to understand that you're not missing anything. So cooling systems like air conditioning, backup measures in case something goes wrong. So all these engineering costs is another part of the budget. Next comes the labor fund for specialists that works for you. It's also obvious that people who are working in your team, their time costs money. Also, if the expertise of these people is not enough, some additional expenses go into the training and necessary certifications. And the last but not the least, when you're building any data center or any server room for your personal project, in case something goes wrong, you need to consider how much downtime will cost you and your project and your company, because in case of an accident, the production stops. You need to understand that in case this cost will be budgeted for your project, or if you need to have some kind of a backup in case something goes wrong with the first server or first setup servers. To summarize, the cost consists of hardware and updates, licenses, specialists, and engineering expenses. This is something that you need to calculate and budget with attention. So how to build an efficient infrastructure? So first, you need to conduct an audit of your current setup. Evaluate the current workload, see how reliable your system is, consider the financial benefits of using different projects and different options of setup, and see if they justify the cost of it. Check network and internet costs, because it's also important. Don't forget that setting up network and internet is not cheap. it also may depend on the region you're located in. So just this can be a significant part of your ongoing expenses if you are owning a server. Also, it's important to consult an expert. Why am I paying special attention to this? Whether you're just planning or already running your system, it's always a good idea to talk to experts and service providers, because they're usually your partners. They have sometimes clearer picture of what modern solutions can help you get the result you want. So you don't need to spend extra money for some maintain and setup without any need for that. It is important to openly engage with this into this conversation with your provider, because some things are not obvious. We sometimes have such examples when client comes to us and just say that I have a finished list of what I need, like a set number of virtual processors, a certain amount of memory that I need, and something like that. But instead, just share the details of what you are planning to achieve with your project. That will help you and your provider to bring the best solution, to create the best setup for your tasks. Give the provider a chance to evaluate your needs from their own expertise, because they can advise what will work better for you in your specific case. Also, it will help you to avoid some hidden costs, because sometimes this is not all the things are obvious even to experienced teams. So let's talk a little bit about how to choose IT infrastructure provider. In our time, there are many companies who are working now and provide such kind of services. There are dozens of them on the market, not only in the local Kenyan market, but also globally. So it's very important to understand what criteria makes a provider reliable for your successful operations and your business, because sometimes this is not obvious. If we look at the Kenyan market, so from the discussions that we had with Kenyan business, these are the top 5 things that is the most important for businesses that they expect from provider in Kenya. So first, of course, it's the ratio of price to quality of services, opportunity to pay locally without any dependence on global currency rate, the ability to quickly get technical support, preferably without any additional payment, the ability to choose server configurations that are and quickly launch them, configurations that will answer the requirements in that specific period of time of the company, to have fast communication without any encounter signals, especially important for fintech and e-commerce projects. And lately, it became very important to comply with the Data Protection Act and GDPR. We will talk a little bit later. There are different nuances on this matter, but I will cover what points are very important in terms of IT infrastructure specifically. Of course, this legal part is very wide, but we'll talk a little bit later. So based on these criteria, we understand that in general, to choose the right provider is always sometimes can be a tricky task, let's say. So I will now try to provide you with some kind of a checklist of what you need to know about the provider to call them reliable, because reliability basically is the most important thing in a provider. So one of the criteria is SLA, Service Level Agreement. I think that most of you have already heard about this acronym, and usually it's often thought of as a document that speaks about reliability. But what do actually numbers such as 99% SLA actually mean? So I want to explain that because it's important. So these documents tell you what you do if your server goes down. It says what you're in charge of and what is the responsibility of your provider. So the main point is to know what to expect from each other, and for you, what to expect from provider. So it also covers the reimbursement part if your service goes down. For example, let's say that for some reason your internal databases are down for 5 minutes. According to the SLA of your provider, you can get 5% of reimbursement for this period. Or if your page goes down to, for example, for a couple of days, you can even get all your money back. So this helps you to decide if the deal is good for you or not, if you can work with that, and if you can choose this provider. So again, if, for example, something goes down with on your web page, something is wrong with your web page of your company, you check what went wrong. If it's the provider's fault, you can get reimbursed and you can get some of your money or all of your money back, depending on what is written in this SLA. So all these rules about downtime and reimbursement are in this document. And that's why this document is as important as the main contract that you're signing with your provider. Because basically, it answers all criteria that makes you understand if you want to work with this company or not. Why I am paying the big attention to this part? Because, for example, Servercore works on quite high level of SLA. So for us, it is a huge part of our work to technically prove that we are financially responsible for your stability of your work, so that we are making a stable infrastructure for you, and we are responsible for this. So we do a lot of technical setup for backups, for reliability, to make sure that everything works smoothly and you can rely on us. So just this part, I think that the most important one. What else can you look at? Technical support. First, you need to understand if provider is organizing this support in general, if it's quick, efficient. Some providers charge for these services, so you should consider if free support is important to you or not. Also, you can evaluate the response time that they promise, because how fast does the provider answer the requests if something goes wrong. Quick responses are crucial, because especially if it's affecting your current setup of the services, you can't rely on the provider who are not answering in case something goes wrong. It's probably obvious, but still. Also, help with general settings, because this is another part. When something goes wrong, it's one way, then sometimes you just need some help to set up some things, especially if you're trying a new service or a new product which you're not familiar with. So can the provider help you to understand how to set up or change services? This is also important. Communication method is also something that you can look at, because it should be, of course, convenient for you. If it's a ticket system on the web page, if it's an email, social messengers, just messengers like WhatsApp or Telegram, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that it is convenient for you, your team, and this is something that you can quickly, something with which you can quickly receive the feedback from provider. So this is a crucial thing. About technology, what can I say? So first, it's important that the provider doesn't use any unreliable solutions, are not organizing any experiments. So all the technology should be familiar for them and for you and for your team. Because it's also crucial that, of course, these solutions will optimize your business, but not make things more complicated for you. Check if the provider can back up your stuff. This is very important, because you need to understand how fast can they get your data back if something goes wrong. Do you need to make the backup yourself, or they are automatically organized? If you need a special program to run the backup. So make sure to test backups before something goes wrong, because it's important to understand in advance how this process is working, because if something goes wrong or any downtime or you lose any of your data, of course, this is not something we want. So no one needs that. Just make sure that you understand how recovery and process is working with this specific provider. What else? I think that in technology part, everything is clear. Also, certifications, of course, it's an important part. Why? If we talk about data center, there is such thing as a tier level. This indicates the level of data center, which speaks to the level of communications established there, how the network operates, and basically talks about reliability of the data center itself. So how power supply is working, how backups are organized in terms of infrastructure inside the data center. So why this is important? Essentially, the tier levels assumes that everything works smoothly, there is uninterrupted operation of your data inside the data center. So there are 4 levels of this tier, and the higher number, the more reliable data center is. It has more specifications that will show that everything should go smoothly without any interruptions in your work. Also, there is such thing as PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. This is created specifically for protection of payment card information. So this is a necessary requirement for any businesses who are working with e-commerce, fintech, who are working with payments via credit cards. For some businesses, it might be crucial. As already mentioned, DPA Act, some certificates from Kenya Data Protection Commission, GDPR, or any other things that are important for you. Will the provider protect your personal data, your client's data, how they are compliable with the laws that involves in this specific country? So there are many things that you should also check before you start hosting your data with this specific provider. Also, I will pay some attention to vendor certification, because sometimes it's important to train your team, and providers also do that. If you need any specific program that will require some expertise, you can double check if the provider has this specific certification from the vendor that you're interested in working, if you're interested in some specific technology. So if you know it in advance, you don't have to face any unpredictable surprises in the future when you actually need it. Then also the last but not the least part, of course, you can look at the experience of the team handling the projects from your data center and from the provider, whether they have real clients, whether they have some feedback, some significant partnerships, because usually it's important and shows the expertise of team in general. Also, sometimes it's nice to know if the provider works in different countries, because this is also something that somehow demonstrates the expertise and flexibility and ability to follow the trends, because building IT infrastructure in one country is quite not an easy task if the company organizes this in different countries with different requirements and different legal issues and things like that. It also shows that they have a good foundation. But probably this is the last part that can be kind of an additional thing that you can also pay attention to. I think that this basically it for the checklist. Hope now it's a little bit more clear how to evaluate your provider. If you still have any questions that I haven't covered in this part, just ask them in our WhatsApp chat. You can just scan the QR code, and my colleague will answer directly right now or a little bit later. Don't hesitate. Okay, so now I think we can move to another part. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Servercore, because we're just launching on Kenyan market, but we're not news on IT infrastructure and cloud and bare metal solutions. So let me just tell a little bit about our company. So Servercore is an international premium infrastructure provider with a local presence. Our mission is to help companies deliver their services to users in countries with breakthrough technological growth. So how we achieve our mission? First, for our clients, we're not just a provider, we're a technology partner. We always consult about migrating, about any different things that you need in terms of building your IT infrastructure in general, and not just specifically on the products you use. We have 3 communication channels, website widgets, ticket system, email, social networks, and etc. We are working in compliance with international standards, be it technical standards or personal data standards. We have new modern hardware, and we work with SLA of 99.98. So as already mentioned, it's quite a high level of standard. We have organized payment in Kenyan shillings, so you don't need to rely on exchange rate of international currencies. You can pay in shillings via any method that is convenient for you. We have local availability zone and office in Nairobi. Our office is already working. As I mentioned earlier, we have sales engineer Josephine, who you can contact and ask questions about your projects or some ideas about your solutions. And we will launch availability zone next week. So now we're talking a little bit in advance, so that next week you can already use local availability zone in Nairobi region. And also, we work in compliance with personal data laws that are DPA 2019 and general GDPR law. Also, you can look at our webpage on the site servercore.com on the personal data compliance that we're using, how we work with personal data on a page of privacy. So if this is something that is important for you, you can always check about the principles and rules, how we work with personal data. We work now in 4 data centers in 3 countries. We have 4 availability zones. In Uzbekistan, we started in 2021 with just 2 racks, and by the end of this year, we already have 24 of them. Overall, this region grows with a revenue growth of 25% every quarter. So currently, there are around 130 active clients. In 2023, we've opened 2 new locations, Kenya, which we're launching right now, and earlier this year, we've launched a location in Kazakhstan. We will bring PaaS solutions in Kazakhstan and Kenya this October. And also next year, we will be looking for new availability zones, probably in Middle East and Southeast Asia. So for companies who are planning about global expansion and for whom it is important to work with clients from the different countries, you might be interested in this as well. So these are some businesses that already work with us as a service provider. You can see that we have, even here, we have different types of businesses working in different areas. It's fintech companies, retail companies, e-com, taxi drivers operations. So this range is quite wide. I would like to talk a little bit about the projects we're working now, what we're focusing on. So first, of course, we have a control panel. So for all our dedicated servers or cloud servers, you can work from one convenient panel where you have all your balance information, you have configurations where you can count the resources you need, you have all the products, and everything can be run from one single window, let's say. You can even count spendings and see the transactions, see how much you will be charged, all in Kenyan shillings. So here is also a QR code where you can just scan and see yourself how register in the panel and see how it works, how it looks like, what products are available. In general, we operate on 3 levels of infrastructure. The foundation of this is dedicated servers. So we assemble these servers from components from official distributors. You can choose fixed configuration for the project. Usually it's high demanding projects who use these resources, but all these resources from the dedicated servers are completely yours, and you run them from the same control panel virtually. Just you put some of the expenses for organizing all the servers for you on your provider and data center. The idea of working is the same. The cloud platform is based on open source technologies, and it allows you to run virtual machines on a public or private cloud with data storage, with quick scalability. So it's usually interesting product for projects which are intended to grow and scale without some specific rules or ideas of future. So you don't know when exactly you will need additional resources, so you can just launch on a cloud platform, and you don't need to worry about it. Also, as I mentioned, we will launch PaaS solutions in Kenya this October. So these are the products that helps clients to reduce some cost for administration and flexibly scale their infrastructure. These are cloud databases, object storage, and Kubernetes clusters. I mentioned already that we are not just a provider, but also a technology partner. So I just want to make a little bit note on that. So we help with cloud migration. We migrate your apps and services with minimal risk and with predictable time frame. We help to conduct an audit of your system for cost optimization. We work ensuring the compliance with law on personal data. We ensure uninterrupted operation and financially guarantee this with our SLA. And also we work hard to ensure information security against any network attacks and unauthorized access. So we do set up the DDoS protection. We have different options for backups. You can also explore that in our documentation and make sure that everything is tolerant for any unpredictable situations. We guarantee it with our SLA. You can read more actually in our blog. If you're interested in some educational materials, we do organize some media articles, let's say, in our blog on types of servers, on how to run different BaaS products. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, don't forget to have a look at our blog. Okay, so let's continue. We wanted to talk a little bit more about what to expect from future. I will just tell you briefly about some trends that we're observing now in IT. First one is moving from on-prem to cloud. So many companies are now heading this way for different reasons. Some just want to avoid the hassle of managing all the things themselves. Others might need to upgrade their own equipment, but they don't have a budget for it, or it's easier for them to just pay, for example, every month to rent a cloud server. It might be for different reasons. So usually it's can be some budget limitations or certifications also that might be needed for the company or for the team, which are not actually effective to receive for your own internal team. Sometimes it's better to rent a cloud server in this solution. So you can migrate your system to the cloud. You can administer up to virtualization level with the BaaS products. You can do load-dependent scaling and rely on this flexible and fast resource management, and use, for example, as one of the cases, use your on-prem system as a backup platform. Because one awesome benefit of using the cloud, actually, it gives you a lot of room to try new things, which sometimes is very important for startups when you don't usually know how to budget the project, what will be the expenses, how you will actually be successful according to your plan or not, and etc. It's a lot of different questions that arise for young companies or for the new products in adult companies. So unlike traditional online setups, you can easily add more power to short-term projects. With pay-as-you-go model, you can even be paying for hourly for some resources. So you only pay for what you've used, and you can scale accordingly to your demand. If the idea of moving to the cloud sounds scary for you, you don't need to stress. Many providers, including us, they are ready to make that switch easier for you. You can talk with engineers. They will handle everything from planning to setup, so you don't need to worry about anything. I also wanted to share one of the cases. One of our clients, food tech and e-commerce company, they were planning the huge customer growth. So they needed to have a virtual infrastructure because they didn't know how exactly this growth will go, but they saw that, of course, on-prem solution is not actually something that will answer their needs. So in 2022, they have deployed virtual machines at Servercore, first for the growth itself, then they moved all their machines, not only not only the one part of the project. And also then after that, they even moved to the service of cloud databases because they didn't want to administrate anything on their own. So as a result, by the end of this project, they had already 2 working projects for the prod sales and for the testing environment, both in the cloud. They had 70 central processors, 175 GPs of storage, and the service of cloud databases. So this was one of the example of a successful move to cloud from on-prem when it didn't answer anymore the requirements of this business. And cases like that are very often happening now because different projects require different scale and infrastructure. Okay, sorry, let's move on. For the second trend, switching to renting dedicated servers. The trend of transitioning to dedicated servers comes from different challenges. Some companies start with the cloud, but then switch to dedicated servers because usually it's more cost effective for the products with high load, with the high performing requirements, with some databases that are huge for some kind of products. So these companies might think that on-prem is the only solution, but no, you can also rent a dedicated server and run it via the same virtual platform from the same window. So why make that switch? First is your data. If you have tons of data, remember that disk space isn't cheap in the cloud, but in dedicated server it's more affordable. If you have in-house experts, if your own team is educated, they can manage dedicated servers themselves more efficiently usually, so for them it's also a solution. As I already mentioned, for high performance, because for services with heavy traffic, like popular apps, food apps, taxi apps, dedicated servers can be cheaper than cloud solutions. And also, I think that's it. So for solution, you can not only use the dedicated server, you can run ready to use setup, and sometimes it might be easier for you to rent this server even in fixed configuration than to buy on your own, because some of the procurement might not be reliable still. So it's not always about the budget, it's sometimes even about the timeline of this procurement system, which is now, since the COVID pandemic, is still a little bit unreliable. Also, if you're planning an upgrade, then you can also think about improving any type of your business. Provider can often use this dedicated server as a cost-effective solution in case of buying your own equipment and investing lots of money into owning this infrastructure. So also, as I said, you can access via API and via the panel. They are easy to start within 2 to 60 minutes after the order. We have these dedicated servers in all regions where we work. Rent starts at 1 day, so you can even order the dedicated server for 1 day, for 1 month, for 12 months. You don't need to pay any setup fee. So it's convenient. This is also an important thing, and it's convenient to use them via control panel with all your other projects. If you want to have a hybrid infrastructure, for example, it's also something that might be interesting for you. Also, I want to share a client case here. We had, I will just tell you. We had a company, a developer of software and services for different sales teams, such as widget, online calls, online service, chats, and something like that. So they had their own on-prem infrastructure, but they had different problems, mostly about engineering costs and the maintaining of their server room in general. So they were not satisfied with the internet provider that they had. There was lack of internal resources to maintain those servers, because they usually needed to hire some additional guys and there were some specific ventilation problems in this building where the server room was located. So for them, at some point, we selected suitable fixed configuration and advised on what to pay attention to when they were migrating infrastructure. This was important because at that time, they didn't have their own DevOps specialist. So for them, it was valuable to have all the system approach, not only of selecting configurations and suggesting in this case of using dedicated servers, but also advising on the migration itself. One of the cases, but of course there are many of them. Another trend is data localization. So first thing is, of course, in every country it's different, but we're talking about Kenyan Data Protection Act and GDPR if it's needed and crucial for your business. I will only talk about the parts that require and requirements for IT infrastructure, because generally this act covers a lot of different things, how you process your own data, how you store them, and etc. But something that you need to know in terms of IT infrastructure is the following. So first, this act requires for data controllers and data processors to process data lawfully, minimize the collection of data and ensure data quality and etc. Establish security and safeguards and protect personal data of your clients. The second thing is about data localization. Data localization refers to the requirement of data to be processed through a server or data center located in Kenya, and requiring at least one server and copy of personal data to be stored in a data center located in Kenya. This requirement for localization is imposed on processing data in the following fields, so such as national civil registration systems, population register, identify management, facilitation of primary and secondary education, some electronic payment systems, revenue administration, health data, and other critical infrastructure. So what can be the solution? Of course, in terms of localization, it's better to choose provider with a presence in Kenya. This way you will cover all those things and make sure that the provider's processes meet law and GDPR requirements. As already mentioned, you can see how Servercore works with data on our webpage in the privacy area, what principles we use when we work with your data and how we protect it. So I think that this is all. That's all for the main part of the webinar. I remind you again that all our participants of today's event will receive the bonus of 5,000 shilling bonuses for testing services in Servercore. Once again, I remind you how to get them. So you register your account on myservercore.com. You receive an account ID with all this information about your project and what are your tasks and what products do you need. You can send a message to our sales engineer in Nairobi, Josephine, either via WhatsApp or via Telegram. You can scan the code on the slide. And after that, she will instruct you on how to proceed and will credit these bonuses to your account. Now, I wanted to answer some questions that were not part of the main content of the webinar, but also they were repeating itself from time to time during the request you have sent earlier. So I will cover some of them. And also, if you still have some questions about your specific tasks, your infrastructure, about Servercore, or general about IT infrastructure costs and providers, you can ask these questions in our WhatsApp chat. Just scan this QR code and our manager will answer to you during this event and later if needed. So don't hesitate. So first question, I will read it from the slide. So do cloud space storage actually the right place to store our health records? Then on the external storages like hard drives and flash drives. And the second question was about safety concerns about storing work-related files in the cloud. I put those two together because they're kind of asking about the same, whether it's good to choose a solution that is not on the cloud for some some, let's say, sensible data. So the question for that is, of course, there is no such thing as better. It largely depends on your specific requirements, on your circumstances. In terms of health records, as I already mentioned, there are some law requirements that needs to be considered when you're choosing the provider. These are some things maybe I can point for focuses which you can think about when you are making this decision, but of course it all varies on your specific circumstances. So first is security and privacy. Ensure that cloud storage providers are compliant with all regulations, especially for health area. The second one is access and collaboration. If multiple people from your team needs to access these files, then probably cloud storage might be the more adventurous for you instead of putting them into drives or flash drives or whatever. Also cost, consider both short-term and long-term costs. I already gave you an idea on how to budget them, or at least how to count. Also, the last, as always, but not the least, backup. Whether methods you choose, just make sure that you back up all the information and that backups are working in place. But once again, these questions are very general. They're not specific enough. So if you have any more information, if you're the one who asked this question and you are watching us today, just make sure that you write into our chat or you write directly to Josephine. She will consult you, but just give them a little bit more details. Which payment options will be available in Kenya? Well, as I already mentioned, we are receiving payments in Kenyan shillings, and for that we have several options. Right now, it is available on the panel. You can pay via bank transfer. I think that from October, we will be able to access M-Pesa and credit cards. So starting from October, you will have several options to pay for the services. And you can choose whatever is depending on the amount, I guess, so depending on the scale of your project, which is the best option for you. So just keep updated. Also, two questions that I have combined in one slide because they're kind of the same with the same idea. Which is the best IT infrastructure that is affordable for a new hospital? And what infrastructure should a company employ to host more than 1,500 websites? So here again, the idea is that there are no one-size-fits-all answer. So if your tech team is unsure about the requirements, the specific requirements that you have now, it's probably better to consider our cloud platform, because also it, as already mentioned, it offers hourly billing. It can easily scale with different parameters. And a good starting point might be a server, for example, with 8 cores and 32 GBs of memory. But again, I suggest you to give us a little bit more details so that we can, so that we could advise on the specific idea of your infrastructure and specific setup that might be more affordable for you in your specific case. But just don't forget to write us and give a little bit more details. This question, where is your data center located? For the availability zone in Kenya, our data center located in Nairobi. I call a data center where we have one region for cloud platform, one region for dedicated servers. It's a tier 3 data center, which is one of the highest level of reliability. It also has all important certifications needed for different projects. I guess this information is enough, I hope. If not, just let us know. We will provide more. Yeah, I guess that's it. Once again, I will just leave this slide, just a second. How to receive bonuses, just let Josefina know that you have registered and write her a direct message with the account ID. And if you still have some questions, you can ask them in WhatsApp chat. We will be happy to consult you on any support you need to build or choose your IT infrastructure, be it cloud infrastructure, or if you want to organize dedicated servers for your project, just let us know. We'll be happy to help. So I hope that this meeting was valuable for you, that you get some insights or answered some of your questions. Hope that this was useful. Hope to see you next on our educational meetings, and have a nice day. Thank you. Goodbye.